You've likely heard me say it many times. Healing happens in connection. But what does that really mean? What does it look like? And how much connection does it take? Welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. So truly, if you have been following me for really any length of time, you've probably heard me say that many times. And I also say that healing happens in moments, and much of it is moments of connection. I often tend to talk about connection in the sense of vulnerability and being open and sharing with somebody else. And that is an important part of connection, but it's not the only part. And I actually am doing this video because in my group today, I shared a post just asking a question of something kind of light, not serious at all, but a question that is part of the practice of connecting within and connecting with everybody else in the group. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about this because so often in the course of my work with people, whether it's somebody I work with one-on-one or somebody that's been in a group or joined in a Q&A or something like that, when I talk about connection, people often can feel this physiological response, like this fear can pop in. People can also sometimes roll their eyes when I talk about connection because it's not something that people want to accept is an important part of it. And the idea of connection can feel vulnerable, but what you might initially feel is some resistance. So it really is something that most of us struggle with, regardless of trauma history. Authentic connection is not easy. Even for people that say, oh, I've got a lot of friends, or I'm very social, that may be true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have deep connection with somebody else. So sharing things that are vulnerable, sharing things that are personal, sharing a lot of things, all of that is a part of connection and can be a really important part of healing. The other type of connection that can come from sharing something light, that can come from sharing an adventure together, that kind of connecting is also important because you get to experience on a physiological level, somatically, you get to experience what connection feels like in different types of circumstances. And we need both to be healthy and happy. So connection can come from or in different ways. And ideally, we would be able to experience those different types of connection with the same person. Sometimes we might have more of the adventure type of connection with a particular type of person or a group of people, not the same people that we would share really personal things with, and that's perfectly okay. But hopefully, the people that you do share some of those really personal trauma story types of things with, you might also have some of those other experiences with too, where you get to laugh, where you get to learn more about one another and talk about things that are not quite as deep, personal, or difficult. It's all of it. It truly is all of it. But sharing from that authentic place can be challenging, even the good stuff, the positive things, the things that don't really have any real, seemingly emotional connection to it. But anytime that you're sharing authentically, anytime you're allowing yourself to show up as you are with whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, whatever opinion you have, that is creating opportunity for connection. And when it is met appropriately, it actually is a point of connection. And especially when done mindfully, or when you're able to be really present with it, that in that moment creates healing. So how much connection does it take to heal? Well, unfortunately, I can't give you an answer to that because I don't think that we can really quantify moments of healing. And depending on what our day is like, depending on the moment of connection and who it's with and all of our other experiences with that person, it's going to play into that. All of that will help determine how connected you actually feel with that person in that moment. And that's also part of the reason why continuing to practice being open and showing up authentically and sharing things that may feel a little risky to share with the right people is important. Because even those lighter moments of connection can have a deep impact when done consciously, when experienced consciously, and especially if that person also gets to see the other parts of you that you may not share with a lot of people. And that is part of the deeper connection that we get to build, experience, and feel with those that we choose to show up with, to really show up as our authentic selves. It's not natural for that to happen in most cultures because the idea is that you should or are supposed to feel, think, or behave in certain ways, right? And even if it's never been specifically stated to you on how you should think, feel, or behave, you've learned, right? And so there are automatic things that happen, like when somebody says, "How are you?" And you automatically say, "Good, fine," whatever it is that you automatically say. When was the last time that you really took a moment to connect within to see how you're actually feeling? And then, how often do you actually share that? And I will completely acknowledge that much of the time when people ask that question, they're not really looking for you to say anything. It's almost like a way to say hello in a way, right? But in those relationships that you're working to build, or in those relationships that you have already built to an extent, practicing showing up as fully as yourself as you can, the more benefit, the more connecting, and therefore the more healing you're going to experience. So much of healing is a practice, right? You've heard me say that many times too. And each opportunity that we have to interact with somebody is an opportunity to practice connecting. Because when we feel connected, when we know that we have shared something authentic about ourselves and have been met in an appropriate way and feel a level of connection with that person, that teaches us, it shows us, it allows us to feel that we, as we are, as we think, as we feel, as we show up, is not only accepted, but enough, and is somebody worth connecting with. And it's something that you'll continue to practice, probably indefinitely, even when you feel like you're kind of on the other side of healing, so to speak. Practicing showing up as ourselves is something we have to continue to be mindful of. Because again, society, culturally, it's not what is desired much of the time, right? Like the whole good vibes only thing is a great example of that. If you believe, even if not consciously, that the only way that is acceptable to show up is when you're happy, or if everything's good, or you have to pretend that everything is good, then you can never be actually connected to those people who believe good vibes only, or people who are in denial about everything that is going on in the world and has been going on. If there are things that matter to you, but they don't necessarily matter to somebody else, and you feel like you can't talk about that thing that matters to you, then you can't really show up authentically. If you're hiding that part of yourself because you're not sure how they will receive it, or that they may judge you, or they're not going to understand, then you are hiding that part of yourself, which keeps you from being able to be fully connected with that person. Now, as you heal, you may have relationships with some people who you just recognize and therefore choose not to share certain things with them because you know how they're going to respond. So maybe the nature of your relationship is a little bit different. As long as you have somebody or some place where you can share those things, that's okay. As long as you're not trying to make this relationship be the relationship that is your source of deep connection, because it can never be that. But it's perfectly fine to have a relationship with those people if it feels okay to you, as long as you don't feel like you have to hide something. Certainly as long as you don't feel shame because of how you think or feel and worry that they would judge you. And I've kind of talked about that a little bit in terms of the depth of relationship that we have, or even in friendships, right? That we might have a friend that we share trauma with, and then we have another friend that we share a hobby with, and they're not the same people. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as, especially with the person that you share a hobby with, you don't feel like you have to hide your trauma. Doesn't mean that you talk to them about it necessarily, but it also means that you don't feel shame around it and therefore feel like you can't share it there. That there would be something wrong with it, that they would judge you. And it doesn't even mean that you can't be friends with that person necessarily. It does mean, though, that you need to fully understand within yourself why that relationship means something to you, why you choose to be in it, and make a very conscious decision about staying in it. And again, making sure that it's not coming from shame, because if it is, then that's something that's important to work on. So, kind of a short little video talking about connection. It really can look a lot of different ways. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Vulnerability is an important part of it, but so are the light moments, the moments of laughter. If you've been on a Q&A with me, you know that even in those, sometimes we laugh, even when we're talking about serious, hard things. In my sessions, in my groups, we laugh. In my retreats, a lot of tears, but also a lot of laughter and moments of ease and just being together. All of that is connection, and all of it matters. Remember, healing happens in connection, and healing happens in moments. So I'd love to hear from you. What came up for you as you watched this? Any thoughts or reactions? Share in the comments. Again, if you are new to my channel, or if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to do so and click the bell for notifications. And if you found this helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up so other people can find it too. Have a beautiful day. See you next time. If you are new to my channel, or if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to do so and click the bell for notifications. And if you found this helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up so other people can find it too. Have a beautiful day. See you next time.